Welcome back, and thank you again for joining us on the slide with your host, Tavares Bethel. This podcast aims to normalize important conversations that are required for our community, such as topics surrounding education, politics, justice, and economics. But before we attempt to cross those controversial seas, we must build a vehicle. And I'm joined again with my co-host, my primo, the absolute master navigator, right? Former naval officer, Mr. Carlos Peralta. Welcome back, Carlos. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, D. Thank you for having me back here. It's a pleasure. It's an honor.
Yeah,
Really.
no, it's an honor to have you, and that's why I don't seek to have guests on this podcast. Everyone who comes on and has the opportunity to sit here and share their intellect and their wisdom with the individuals who will view it. I view you as my partner in this process, and so I thank you for joining me in this process because I believe it's something that's necessary as we seek to normalize those skills and competencies that are necessary for individuals to be successful at this stage of their life. And again, we're talking about operational leadership. When we got together the last time, we really dove into what operational leadership is and how effective it can be in helping individuals, master their environments. But what I want to do today is I want to pick your brain and kind of talk about some of those competencies and some of the character traits that are required in order to make leaders successful. I know over the course of 20 years, you got an opportunity to be around a lot of different type of leaders. But what's your opinion of character? What is character to you? And what are those character traits that make leaders successful?
Um, I'd have a decent sized list, but I think we can top them up with um, good communicator, right? Um, Empathetic, um, and part of being a good communicator, listen, right? Um, and from there, I would have to say um, be able to focus on the mission or the task, and be able to um, see how his people, his team's going to be able to fit in, and how that task will.
Mhm. So, and it's good you say, see how his team will be able to fit into that. Because a lot of times you're given a mission, right? There's some ambiguity in how that mission is delivered or what the execution of it would look like, right? So when you receive a mission, what is the first thing that you attempt to do when you get a mission? I give my mission to Captain Peralta, execute. What are those things that you do? What's your matrix?
First thing is I want to see what are my resources. What is the end goal, the end state? What are the parameters of the mission? Um, so gather up all the information. That way I can organize it and be able to share it with my team. Know who's involved and what roles are necessary and what information each role needs to have readily available so you can go right into it.
Well, when you first developed or first interacted with this process that you just articulated, did you learn that in the school or was it through mentorship or how did you grow to understand that these are the things that are required in order to allow for a mission to be successful?
A combination of all of that. Obviously, you first develop under good leaders, and if a good leader will be a good follower, right? And you see how your leader works their team. Hopefully, pick out the best parts of that leader. But it was mentorship, observational, and then as you grow through the ranks, you get formal training where yes, they give you this like hierarchy of what you have to do, but it's a learned trait really. You just have to be willing to take it in and again pick out the right parts, because we're all flawed. Everybody has goods and bads, and hopefully you can learn from that and pick the best parts, make it your own, and develop yourself as the leader that you are.
Because as you were just sharing that, as you were sharing that process, in my mind, I was hearing my instructor from my primary leadership development course explaining to us the troop leading procedures, which I want to say he articulated as RIMS are sick, right? Receive a mission, issue a warning order, make a tentative plan, start necessary movement. So that's the way my brain operates, right? Because it had been drilled into me. And when I went to school and I learned those things at the primary leadership development course, it wouldn't be until I actually got to Iraq the second time where I would see it actually come into existence. The First time I was in Iraq as a soldier. But the second time I went back, I was a little more tenured in my leadership, so I got a chance to participate in some of those mission briefs. And when you go into a mission brief to understand, these are all of the components of things that are preparing to happen. And even as we articulating this right now, and people are watching this podcast, it'll be real difficult for them to understand that right now we're going to get ready to go on a mission, and on this mission, people could potentially lose their life. Mm-hmm. And these are the things that have to be done in order to be able to make sure that we have maximum sustainability throughout the course of this mission. But then when you look around the room at the individuals that are in the room, and you say, man, I'm in the room with Mickey Mouse and Tom and Jerry, right? We get ready to go out right now and do something very, very dangerous, right? Character. What role does character play in leadership? What role? How is character and leadership? How are those things connected?
Well, that's the kind of a difficult question to answer. But I mean, the character that the leader has is gonna feed off into the people that are in your team, right? So being able to have those traits on display, it sets the tone. It sets the tone for your team and for how well organized you set yourself up for the mission. If you don't have a strong character, it's not going to give you buy-in and trust from the people that you're trying to lead. So it just really sets the tone because that's going to determine your whole interaction with your subordinates. So it's a keystone. Mm-hmm. Keystone.
How important is achieving the buy-in and trust? Can you get these things done? I mean, because as a leader, you know that you have a certain type of authority in order to be able to execute, right? And so I can use my authority and I can push or drive these individuals, or I can attempt to achieve buy-in. How important is it that we get buy-in from our subordinates when we're attempting to accomplish a thing? And I know for right now, a lot of people who are listening, they may be listening from that military perspective, but I do believe also that in our civilian world, particularly in our corporate experience that we're having now, that these same skills are important. How important is it to achieve buy-in?
Oh, I think it's very important. Now, it's going to be situational. Sometimes, you have to react to something that probably wasn't planned or briefed or wasn't initial in the mission, and you have to make a decision. But that character and your leadership knowledge and mission knowledge will determine how much you can express what you want to get done with your team, and then they buy into that. But for the most part, we have organized teams that have already some history of working with you. So hopefully you've established that ability for them to have that buy-in and trust in what you're saying. So it takes some time. Now, sometimes they'll throw. I've had chances where I was given a mission and I'm not with my given team. When you're on deployment, in my role, we had something called a combat aircrew, a CAC, and we were supposed to fly. For the most part, there was a core element to the combat aircrew that always flew together. So that way, we knew each other's mannerisms, our tone of voice, how we proceeded in certain phases of the flight or the mission, and it does help in reacting to difficult situations when you are with a known element. But occasionally, hey, this tackle, this navigator went sick, you go fly with them. It's a little bit harder. So the initial interaction, I think from the moment you brief with a new group, you have to set the tone even more at that point because they're not used to you. They don't know you very well. So that makes it that much more important that you as a leader are prepared when you stand up in front of them and you know what you're talking about and you're not shuffling through pages and awkward silences. So subject matter knowledge of what you're going to lead them is going to be very important for them to have that initial buy-in. And then as you execute and you're thinking on your feet, important, right? Also, make him participant in some of the decision making when it's called for. Right? Not just my way or the highway. Sometimes it has to be. You're put in a leadership position for a reason, but making him participant in the mission, in the decision making process, also gets some buy-in because your team will see. Oh, okay, so they value my input. They value what I bring to the team. that's a good way to get some buy-in as
You,
well.
you know, man, what you just said was so rich. It was a lot of jewels there. It's one of those kind of things where you gotta just rewind it back, listen again, rewind it back and listen again. It started with set the tone, and then display subject matter expertise in order to be able to gain the trust of those individuals that you're going to be called to lead. And then after you do that, you may even want to attempt to lure individuals in and then allow them to participate in some of the decision making. What I want to dig down into just a little bit was something that you just said, because you said it real simply and matter of factly, but I think it's very, very important, because at some times as a leader, you're going to be called to make a decision and you may have to ignore some of those inputs. And when you ignore some of those inputs that come from the team, it can make the team at times feel not heard. So how do you manage that as a leader? Your authority say, hey, well, right now, I understand I'm trying to receive input from y'all. That's not what we're doing right now. Right now, we're going to do exactly what I'm asking you all to do because I'm in authority. And since I'm in authority, I am making this decision. When you understand how that decision will impact your environment and your team, what do you do? What do you do in the aftermath of that? What does the damage control look like, or or do you feel as any is required?
Situational dependent. Time permitting, you can try to explain or delineate why decision making. They're like, no, this is the way it has to be. You know, sometimes you might have privileged information that they're just going to have to understand that this is the way it's going to be. If it's one of those cases where you just got to make the decision, there's no time to be like back and forth. It's like, okay, team, you know what? Based on the current knowledge I have, the mission state, this is what we're going to do. If you guys have any questions, let's talk about it in the debrief. Mm-hmm. Let them know that it doesn't have to necessarily be a moot point, for the entirety of the mission, the task, but at some point we'll discuss why I made this decision. Right now we're just going to do what I say because I know X, Y, and Z is what determines what we're going to do right now. So yeah, sometimes you just have to make the call. You have more information. You have the ROE that hopefully nailed. Your team may not know, but these are the rules that you're governing by. And again, you might have privileged information, and that can happen in the corporate world as well. Mm-hmm. So having the willingness to later discuss why you made your decision and letting them know that hey, it's a learning opportunity for them later. But it's situational dependent, I would say.
Yeah, man, I had an opportunity maybe about 2 weeks ago to watch a leader lead. And shout out to LB Griffith Linus, affectionately known by his team over there at MGE5 in Jefferson, Georgia, for Amazon. Amazon is a robust organization. And these young people, they're doing, when we started out, they doing 50,000 a sort. This is normal for them, right? Wow. Right. Wow. On this one particular Monday night, they had to do 72,000 units of production. Whew. Man, listen, inside of the first 30 minutes on a 5-hour period of time, they had 5 hours to get through 72,000 units of volume, and that's at night with a flex up. Right, so we know that that's not necessarily the ideal situation. Oh, no. We want to be able to get that stuff done in 4 or less, right? So on a night like that, the main inbound belt, which controlled all of the belts in the facility, went down, broke. They had no ability to inbound volume in order to reach the 72,000 volume goal. Man, it was chaotic as I had ever seen. But I had an opportunity to see a leader rise to the occasion, demonstrating subject matter expertise of the material handling equipment within inside of the facility, reroute the volume in order to be able to get as much of the volume in order to be able to minimize the loss. After understanding and analyzing the situation, it was determined by the leaders at the regional level that the impact would be at least 30,000 units of volume that customers would not receive. We're talking about 30,000 packages that customers wouldn't receive. The leader went to work. Shout out to LB. Shout out to Miss Carolyn. Shout out to Andrew Itel. Shout out to Joey. Shout out to every single process assistant that was in that building. Shout out to Jackie. Am I leaving any of y'all out? If I left y'all out, then make sure you double back and say something, and I'll make sure I mention you the next time. Because every single person in that building began to move at the instruction of the leader, right? And that leader kept everybody informed, over-communicated, and reduced a 30,000 deficit that could have potentially been rolled volume, or volume that promises that would have made it to their customers. 30,000, reduced it from 30,000 to 2,000.
Wow.
They processed over 68,000 units of volume at the end of this period manually, doing everything by hand. I've never seen nothing like that before. Shout out to that team. Everyone on that team needs to be recognized. That was leadership at its best. I've never seen, and I've been in some very, very difficult situations, but to watch everyone come together, and as it was happening, you wouldn't have even known it was occurring. But it was some things that were taking place during the course of this process that I believe that were instrumental to them achieving their overall goals. And it was their presence. It was the way that they communicated. It was the character that they displayed while operating under a harsh condition. So how do you inspire a team when you see that you're getting ready to deal with something that is extremely difficult? What would you recommend to leaders as they enter into adversity? Where should they start? Once they recognize this is going to be like me, as I walked around the facility, everybody that I saw and they asked me what's going on, I told them FUBAR. It's FUBAR. And that's what we be. If anybody who don't know what FUBAR is, fucked up beyond all recognition. It's FUBAR, right? But,
Yeah.
but what do you do? How do you prepare the team to begin to respond to that type of leadership?
In a situation like that, we talked about it just in the tone, right? So you can't panic. Right, you gotta process the information and not show the weakness, any weakness, because it's going to start from you, right? Mm-hmm. And pool your resources. Don't let negativity begin, because it'll breed real quick. The moment somebody says, "Oh no, we're done for, we're screwed," no, what do you mean we're screwed? No, mm-hmm. The night is young. There's still so much more, and then get together. So set the tone initially by not giving in to the failure. More is like, you know what? We haven't even begun the fight.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
We haven't even begun the fight. John Paul Jones, if I said it wrong, I'm sorry. My naval history now, 6 years after retirement, I haven't even begun the fight. And that's the attitude you have to have, right? Rise to the challenge. Oh, adversity, let me show you how we're going to overcome it, and this is going to be a story.
Yes.
For history. So
yes.
That's how it's going to be. That's how it's going to be.
Because you take that adversity, you take what could have been a difficult situation, and you turn it into triumph immediately, mm-hmm. right? And then you mentioned something as we were talking. You mentioned one of those quotes. Could you repeat that quote again that you just said?
I have not begun to fight.
I have not begun to fight. Right. So when you hear tidbits like that, is it important for a leader? Right. Because if you go on your social media right now, you go on your LinkedIn, you go on your Instagram, you go on your Facebook. Millions of leadership quotes, right?
Oh, yeah.
How important are these quotes, right? Do these quotes have any degree of significance? Can they be useful to a leader, or is it a tool that a leader should keep with them?
Oh, absolutely. It's been said before. It worked, and it's a point of beginning, and a lot of them have intrinsic value. I believe I've discussed with you once that one of my favorite quotes from one of the last commanding officers I had is mission first, people always. It's simple, but there's so much behind it of how I know how he's thinking, right? Mm-hmm. I know where he's coming from mm-hmm. by saying those words. So if they're out there, pick your best and share them. Mm-hmm. And if you share them once, share them. Let them, because it's indicating really what your credo is. Mm-hmm. It's where you derive your leadership thinking. So they're very valuable.
Yes. Sir. And as you were mentioning that, when I was a private, every time I used to come through the gate on Fort Riley, that's what they say. They say mission first, soldier always, right? And for me as a young soldier, coming through and hearing those words every single day, it helped me understand that it's what we're doing is considered important, but the people who are doing it are actually important. Mm-hmm. Not to say that missions don't have any value. I'm saying that a mission can't have more value than the people. Mm-hmm. Although as a person who has agreed to accept the mission, it's my responsibility to own the mission, right? I need to be crazy about the mission, because if I begin to neglect that thing that I'm doing, it could potentially lead to me losing my life. And that's why I kind of share with you, whenever I was a young person in the military and I would hear people refer to as bodies. We got a detail. We need 4 bodies. Right, that's disrespectful to me. And if a person hear this right now, and if I'm lying, I'm flying. If I was like that calling y'all bodies, then feel free to comment. You know what I'm saying, and then deal with me in the comments. But my personally, I always strive to treat individuals like human beings, recognizing that at my command they could potentially lose their life. You know, the least we could do is respect them and we can honor them. And as we, you know, stand here just a few days away from Veterans Day, like me, one of my favorite quotes, and when I heard it, it was a guy who told me this. I hadn't heard this until he said, and that was Chief Warrant Officer Jonathan Layton, when he shared with me Mad Dog Mattison's quotes before Mad Dog Mattis was anything of renown, you know, Secretary of Defense and all that kind of stuff, Secretary of State or whatever position he held. When he said, when talking in a room full of sheikhs and mullahs, to say, we came in peace, but we brought guns, right? That just resonated with me, right? And in life, I come in peace, but I'm always going to keep a gun with me, right? Not physically a gun. My gun is my leadership style, or my ability to interact in the environment. We come in peace, but we bring guns. We want to be effective at the things that we're trying to do or attempting to do, but sometimes it takes a little bit extra. If you had to make a recommendation for a leader that kind of topped out and what they were trying to do, what would you tell them to do in order to be able to improve their efficacy?
A bit of reading works, but I would say look for a different leadership style person. I mean, there's many different leadership styles, but probably look at if where you're at it hasn't worked, or you found that you're not getting any better. Maybe that style isn't the one that works for you. There's good ones, there's bad ones, but there's always an in between. So if you're not successful, look for another style, another mentor. All right, I would say look for another mentor, and then there's plenty of them out there. Don't be afraid to go out there and you see something. This is where I'm at. I'd like to get where you're at. So be willing to do that.
You mentioned, you said a good bit of reading too. What is the significance of the leader or the learner constantly updating their knowledge pool? How does that play into their leadership?
Well, you're learning from past mistakes, right? Or good examples of decision making in tough situations. And you may not run into the same situation again, but something, if you read through a good book or you study a leader in history, or it doesn't have to be military, it could be someone like Elon Musk or Bill Gates or Steve Jobs. Read his book. I actually read his book a couple times, his biography, and but you see how they reacted to different situations, and how their perseverance in difficult moments led them to where they were. In a lifetime, you're not going to face every situation, so read about it, right? I mean, I wasn't a history buff when I was young. As I got older, I actually started really appreciating it, because from reading, from looking at history, you can apply certain decision-making techniques or just fixes that worked before into your current situation.
Man, that's profound, and that's very, very wise. One of my early mentors, a gentleman named Luther Harris Jr., he was Command Sergeant Major Luther Harris Jr. He commanded the 8th United States Army Whiteman Non-Commissioned Officer Academy. He was always known for saying the difference between extraordinary people and ordinary people is the extra, right? And so if we attempt to or have a desire to excel in our fields of endeavor, it's going to require extra. It's going to require the reading. It's going to require the seeking of a mentor. It's going to require the practical exercise that's necessary, and it's also going to require making some mistakes, right? So what do you tell the leader in those situations? Because I remember I made a mistake one night, and we messed up a whole bunch of freight, and then I called you, and you was like, man, I wouldn't have did what you did. I guess that's that Army in you, but at least you gave it a shot. Like, what do you recommend to leaders in those situations? Because I needed that, right? Because I was in a new environment. I had no idea really what I was doing, right? I was doing the best that I could, but that failure have a way to make you feel like you're inadequate, right? So what do you recommend to leaders when they're in that situation, when they may fail a little bit or they might not hit the mark a little bit? What recommendation would you give?
Oh, number one, don't dwell on it. Learn from it. Don't dwell on it. Um, a good leader's going to fall. The difference is going to be how quickly they get back up. All right, and take that learning experience with you, because it's going to come back. I mean, you're going to not the exact situation might be, but something similar is going to come around, and if you dwell on it, the moment it comes again, you're going to doubt yourself. Just take the learning experience. Okay, this is what led me to this. A good debrief after an issue like that. This is what got me where I'm at right now, or why I made this decision. For future reference, if I see these things happen, this is how I should react. So just don't dwell on it, because God knows, I've made plenty of mistakes in my life. Some bigger, some smaller, but I learned from every single one of them, and I pride myself on learning from other people's mistakes too. Even from a young kid, I watched my sister make a lot of mistakes, and that's what kept me out of some trouble. Right? But yeah, just don't dwell on your mistakes, because they're going to happen. Even the best leaders will fall. They'll make the wrong call, and learn from it. Don't dwell.
Man, that's how I think we need to take that and we need to capture that and put it on a post and then allow it to go viral, because even good leaders fail, but the best leaders are those who get back up. I like that, man. I think that was hot. I think I just got my quote of the day, and I got several of them that I pulled from this experience here. As we get ready to bring this experience to a close, what would you offer as a strategy for a young leader to develop the character and the competencies that are necessary in order to be successful as they're taking on the endeavor? What are some of those developmental strategies that you recommend?
Well, you got to know yourself, right? So I would say be introspective on what drives you, why you want to be a leader. All right, is it because you really enjoy that interaction as a team and being able to drive a group of people to that same objective? So know yourself, and then list what your from that, list the qualities that you have and know where your weaknesses are, and address those first. If you're not a good communicator, then work on that, right? If you're not good at verbal or written communication, you don't like computers, you don't like email, work on that first. So work on your weaknesses first, and then pick a mentor, all right? You can go through all the formal training you want where they'll teach you the basics, they'll teach you the steps, but there's nothing like OJT, learning on the job by looking at a leader you like and trying to shadow them and pick their mind and find out how they got where they were. As I said before, look for the traits that you like, and try to bring them into your own. Look at their mistakes. Don't look at just the good stuff. Look at, he's a great leader, but sometimes he does this, that, and that. Don't take that. Know that, many people make mistakes. They're not aware that they're making those mistakes. Some of those traits that they have are just learned, and they don't realize that they're abrasive and maybe dismissive, even though they could be, in general, they can be good leaders, but they may have those cases. So learn from those so you don't make those same mistakes. Right? So know yourself and pick a good mentor. That's key.
I think that's fire for us as we draw down somewhere where we can build and grow from. So we're building around self-awareness, right? Leadership, it appears to be something that's cute, and everybody see it, and everybody want to be the leader, and we want that attention. But you really, like Carlos said, you really have to know why it is that you're taking on this undertaking, right? And it can't be something because you just want to, glorify your ego, because it's a lot more pain that's associated with the leadership journey than it is pleasure. It's pleasure when you understand exactly how your leadership is impacting those individuals who you aspire to lead, and working and cultivating the ability to be effective communicators. Working with Chief Jonathan Layton, a man I like to call my brother, we developed a definition for communication during our time at the 8th United States Whiteman Non-Commissioned Officer Academy. And we would say that Communication is the two-way exchange of information across time and space. So just because you said a thing don't mean that communication occurred. You know that communication occurred when that message is received and then enacted upon. Just because you are the leader and you're yelling out a whole bunch of stuff that needs to occur doesn't mean that you're communicating, doesn't mean that you're communicating effectively because you are the leader. What you want to do is you want to ensure that that exchange of information is two-way, right? That you've established a line or a channel by which you can communicate that message, that that message can be received and executed upon in order to be able to achieve those things that you set forth to do. So this is where we're going to start. Where we're going to start here so that way we can grow a generation of leaders that can be effective in their environments. And again, Primo, I thank you for coming on and spending time with us today in order to be able to help our populations grow. And I look forward to your many returns in the future as we help to grow a generation of individuals that might not, like you said, might not have had our same set of experiences, but they don't have to have any of our failures because we can offer them our failures and then they can learn from them and they can grow. So as we get ready to bring this episode to a close, what would be the last message that you would like to give to a young aspiring leader?
Put me on the spot. No, well, I would say you have to have prepare yourself, have perseverance and purpose as you go into this this role that you're looking for in leadership. Because you mentioned it before. I mean, it's taxing. Know that being a leader, you're carrying your weight, you're carrying the weight of the people that you're leading, right? So just be ready for it and ask yourself, is this what you really want? I mean, we need leaders, but we need the right leaders. Mm-hmm. So just know thyself.
Know thyself. As we begin to complete the hull of the vehicle, because as we so discussed at the beginning, we're trying to create a vehicle by which we'll be able to navigate difficult seas. As we put a hull on our ship, let's focus on 5 things: courage, candor, competence, commitment, and then the last one that I'm probably the most excited about is consistency. Right? Develop courage as a leader. Be committed to those things. Have candor. Candor is that ability to be able to voice a grievance with respect, right? All too often we want to get into, pissing contests with individuals that we need in order to help us be successful. But candor allows us the ability to be able to say those things while still maintaining the amount of respect that is necessary. Courage, candor, competence, commitment. Competence being very, very paramount to success, as Carlos, as my primo, identified at the beginning of our dialogue. Establishing subject matter expertise. Not that you're the smartest individual in the room, but that you have a competent working knowledge of those things that are required in order to be able to move your organization. And then you practice and you do those things routinely and consistency. And with that consistency, you will earn the respect of those individuals that you lead. Again, it's always an honor and a privilege to have the opportunity to come in and share words with my co-hosts, with the people who chime in and add value in the comments. Continue to like, share, and subscribe to the slide because like we always say, you can run and you can glide, but you cannot hide when you're on the slide. We'll see you again. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you.